What is up, Edison Duelists? This is Dionysus, aka Young Puds, and I am coming at you guys today with some more Shameless Hypebeast Gigavice content. Now, today, I actually have a pretty serious discussion. There's been a little bit of controversy sweeping the Gigavice community, and this controversy can be best summed up with this little quote that we are seeing here at the bottom. If you think you don't need 3 power tool, you haven't played the deck enough. That is a bold statement. And while I would agree that 3 power tool is the correct number to play, some people disagree. Some people find that that 3rd power tool dragon is something that you can definitely cut. They feel that it's win more. So I thought, well, you know, what could I do? And wouldn't you know it, the next 2 matches I played after I read this message, I needed 3 power tool. So let's take a look at those matches, and then you can decide for yourself if you think that this is a sufficient case for running 3 power tool, or if you think that myself, Sinbacha here, and anyone else running 3 power tool is just completely out of their skull, insane and wrong. So let's jump into this first game here. This is against our opponent named J-Star 2017, and we have won the die roll. We've opened all right here. I want to say that we do not have Lone Fire Supervise right off the bat. So we're not just always opening combo. We open combo quite a bit here at the Gigavice Yu-Gi-Oh channel, but not every time. So in this case, I am just going to go ahead and go for Lone Fire into Lone Fire for Titanial. I want that second Lone Fire to fuel Mark should I need it. I am comfortable going for Titanial here because I do have the fertilizer to bring back a Lone Fire. However, I only have 1 more Gigaplant in deck, so I definitely want to thin out my deck from that second Lone Fire because there's really only 1 more thing I want to be summoning off of Lone Fire after Titanial. I also think Titanial is going to be really nice here because I do have the Dandelion Raigeki Break combo, so that's going to be an easy way to generate tokens for Titanial. So I'm kind of thinking that, while normally I would be pretty conservative with Raigeki Break, trying to hold it, here I'm going to be pretty eager to activate it so that I can turn on Titanial's effect. So we are just going to set that Raigeki Break and pass, and now it is going to be our opponent's turn. They have the Rhoda, they have the Diva, they have Allure, they have Caius, and they are just going to go right ahead and just simply Diva for Gilman for Catastor. This looks like a perfect target for our Raigeki Break. So of course we're going to fire that, get our tokens online. We're just feeling all that much more safer and secure. Is that a word, folks? I'm not sure. Now here we do find the Supervise, which is going to be a fantastic draw. And after deliberating a little bit, I decide, let's go ahead and play into a possible Torrential. I'm thinking that, if our opponent has Torrential, they might not be wanting to make a Catastor. They might not be so desperate to out the Titanial. They might go for something else instead. So I'm feeling like this is probably not a Torrential. Instead, it's something else. And on the off chance that I have the bad read, Mark of the Rose Gigaplant Supervise, that still is going to be a pretty competent, crackback, comeback play. I'm not going to be completely out of gas. So I am comfortable playing into Torrential. Of course, it is not a Torrential. Here we are going to Lone Fire, tributing one of the tokens. If we can, really just try and keep that extra Lone Fire on the field, that is going to be very, very good for us. I'm going to give the Gigaplant the Supervise, bring out the second Lone Fire, tributing itself off for Nettles here. And then we are going to go ahead and make a Black Brute Drago, just to use that other Gigaplant in our hand to destroy the Mirror Force, and then we are going to have enough damage to attack for game here. So we go ahead and do that, and that is going to be that for game 1. We have enough damage for the win, and we are going to go right into game 2. So I saw the Deep Sea Diva, that's all I saw, but I think that most Diva decks are kind of doing the same thing, whether they're zombies, whether they're Diva heroes, whatever it is. So the sideboard plan is going to be pretty similar. If you have questions about my sideboard plan, I do have a video where I go over how I side deck against all 27 relevant decks in Edison format. So here we have opened an all right hand. I'm seeing MST, I'm seeing Supervise. I have 2 Hidden Armory, which along with the Foolish Burial, this does represent full combo, and it's especially nice because our opponent only has the 1 set back there. So we're going to go ahead and use the first hidden armory, and catastrophically, we are milling supervise here, which means that it is not going to be worth the risk of going into Power Tool Dragon when we do combo off. So we are going to have to settle for an inferior board. However, we are definitely still, kind of pot committed or lone fire committed or hidden armory committed, whatever you want to call it. And so we are going to be forced to go ahead and try and make something happen here. So we're going to tribute the lone fire to get one in the graveyard, and then we are going to use the second lone fire effect. I misclicked on it, and we're tributing the token, actually. I want to have more damage on board, and we're going to get Gigaplant, and then we are going to put the Supervise on Gigaplant, bring out another Lone Fire Blossom, and go for Titanial. We're not able to get game damage, at least that I saw, without hitting a 1 out of 3 roll on Power Tool, and that doesn't seem super good for me. Also, if we miss, we don't have any more equipped, so we only get 1 activation off Power Tool, so that just doesn't seem great. Instead, we are just going to deal a whole ton of damage, get our opponent as low as possible, and hope to close out the game like that. I think something that I could have considered here is gone ahead and made a synchro with the Armageddon Knight, just to get it off the field and not give our opponent a body. It is a little risky, especially with a Mali here. All our opponent needs is a Diva, and then they can make Goyo plus Colossal Fighter and really start to just rip our board to shreds. And now here our opponent does draw Mind Control, which is not the most useful draw. We do have the Titanial to negate that, so we will go ahead and, of course, negate it. Here our opponent is going to Diva for another Diva. Really fantastic for them. They're going to get that Mali out. They forgot to banish the one from their graveyard, but they do have it, so that's perfectly fine. They're going to get the Colossal Fighter up and running, and then they are going to Synchro Summon for Bryanak here. They're going to use Colossal Fighter to run over Titanial, and then they are going to have Bryanak run over the Lone Fire, and then main phase 2, they can just fire Bryanak's effect to put Gigaplant back in our hand, and now they have sufficiently taken apart our board. That gold sarcophagus is going to be no help. I'm going to try and get a hidden armory just in case we are able to live, but I know that the chances are slim to none, and the chances are in fact 0 when our opponent drops a Miracle Fusion. So it is time for that very, very important game number 3. I do think we are favored into Diva Hero, but as you guys can see here, they definitely have tools to take us apart. Of course, in that last game, if we hadn't milled the Supervise, none of this would even have happened. Wouldn't have been a problem. So here we are going to open up, and we are going to Foolish Burial to send a Dandelion, get 2 tokens up, and then we also have the second Lone Fire coming off of Sark. We're going to use the first Lone Fire to go into Gigaplant, and then we are going to fire the DDR, discarding Heavy Storm. I think Trunade is just a little more valuable if I have to pick, to bring back the Lone Fire Blossom, and then we are going to go ahead and Lone Fire into a Copy Plant. Copy Plant is going to copy Gigaplant's level, and we are going to get our first Power Tool Dragon for that guaranteed supervised search. So, of course, 100% doesn't even need to round. It just is 100%, and we're going to give it to our Gigaplant. And then here we are going to summon a Lone Fire. We're not worried about Shura or anything, so we'll let this Lone Fire stick around, and we'll tribute the token for a defense position Titanial. I don't want our opponent to have anything that they can crash absolute 0 into, so we are going to put the Titanial in defense. It is risking a Goyo, but I think it is more likely that Diva is going to be able to come up with a turn 1 Miracle Fusion than a turn 1 Goyo. What can I say, folks? That's just how I'm feeling. So our opponent does draw Book of Moon for turn, so they have Fossil Dyna, Book of Moon, Return. Definitely not the strongest hand. They're going to try an MST to clear our Supervise, and then they are going to try and Book of Moon our Gigaplant. Here I'm going to think, and I actually do want to tribute the Titanial itself, just because if they have Armageddon Knight, that would be a very clean Goyo Guardian over our Titanial, so we'll get that off the field out of the way. I also think if they have 2 targeting things, it's not going to be a problem. It also seems to me like they really, really wanted to get this Supervise out of the way. They wanted to stop me from having the kind of sticky board where Gigaplant would come back. So I'm thinking, okay, that's going to be more important to me to prioritize Gigaplant than to keep the targeting protection going. And I think we're going to be proven right here. Our opponent is going to go ahead and Deep Sea Diva for Spined Gilman. So they're going to be able to make a Catastor, which is going to either answer our Supervise or our Power Tool. He decides to answer the Supervise with it, totally fine. He's going to set Return, set Miracle Fusion, and then pass it back to us. So we are going to draw for turn. We get a fantastic draw with that Miracle Fertilizer. It does pair nicely with the Giant Trunade, but it is going to be a little risky to fire it right away. So instead, we are just going to Power Tool Dragon. We do hit a Supervise. We're going to Giant Trunade first. No sense in being greedy and just getting instantly punished. So we will give the Supervise to the Gigaplant, and then we are going to go ahead and Synchro 7 for another Power Tool Dragon. We'll get the Gigaplant back, and then now all we have to do is hit the 2 out of 3 roll to steal the Catastor with Mark of the Rose, and we do miss. And so now, folks, you are seeing exactly why I think that it is super good to play the third Power Tool Dragon, because sometimes you just need to dig for that one specific equip, and having an extra chance to get it is really, really great. So here we do get our second roll for Power Tool Dragon, and wouldn't you know it, this time we do hit the Mark of the Rose. So we are going to Mark of the Rose and then just attack in for game. The way he set 2, I am feeling confident that he doesn't have Gores, and in fact, we are correct. So that is the first game, or first match rather, which we were able to close out because we played through Power Tool Dragon. If you think that Power Tool wasn't necessary, if you think that there was another line, let me know in the comments. Let's jump right into the second game, which actually was also against Diva Hero. You know, the Diva Hero deck, it's a perennial threat in the Edison format. You're always going to see it. You always want to be prepared for it. Here we open, a kind of weird hand, a whole bunch of traps. I'm just going to go ahead and Gold Sark for Lone Fire, and then set 2 of my traps. I do have the Solemn Judgment to protect against Heavy Storm, but I would rather not use Solemn Judgment on Heavy Storm. It's just more impactful to hit something that's interrupting your combo. And for that reason, I'm just going to hold and set it and just Dust Shoot to get some free information, and then Threatening Roar, so we can definitely live if we need it. Here our opponent is going to draw into the second Miracle Fusion, and we are going to flip that Dust Shoot. Seeing their hand, I am going to decide to put back the Diva. I think a Water might be a little harder for them to replace than a Hero. So I am comfortable letting them keep the Alias, especially with no defense to speak of. Our opponent swings in for 19 with that Alias, and then sets 3 back row. We know what they are. I think we saw their whole hand, so we don't know where their back row is, but we do have pretty perfect information here. We're going to Upstart Goblin, and we do find a Dandelion. I'm going to go ahead and set the Dandelion here. I think that's going to be a really nice way to get our Super Solar Nutrient live, and we're also going to have the Lone Fire coming, so next turn is going to be really big. Our opponent draws in E-Call, which is good for them, but it's also good for us, because even though they're getting Stratos, it means we are going to continue to have 100% perfect information on our opponent, which is just always a really, really good place to be. So here our opponent swings with the Stratos, and on attack, I'm actually going to decide to use the Threatening Roar, and that way we get our 2 tokens right away. I just wanted to, not have to fuss around and definitely get the tokens up. Looking back on it, I can already tell you that this was a little bit of a mistake. No reason to let that first attack through. I'm going to get Lone Fire Blossom. I can just use Lone Fire Blossom to tribute the Dandelion, and then use Super Solar Nutrient when the Dandy token. So I'm giving up an extra piece of interaction. So that definitely was a little bit of a tactical error, but let's see if it is going to cause us too many problems. We do draw the Gigaplant for a turn, and now we do get a Lone Fire Blossom to our hand. So folks, I do admit right away that I should have not let even the 1 attack through on the Threatening Roar. However, sometimes in Yu-Gi-Oh, you make a mistake, and then you just have to keep pushing forward. You just have to accept that, what's done is done. All you can do is change the future. And, that's really true in life as well, guys. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we don't make the correct decision. But if you spend too much time talking about what you should have done, you are wasting time that could be spent on what you can do. So speaking of what we can do, this is going to be our little puzzle for this episode. So take a moment, pause the video. We do have perfect information. We know that our opponent has a Miracle Fusion, a Starlight Road, and an MST. We know they have another Miracle Fusion. We know they have an Ocean. We have a Solemn Judgment. We have a Mirror Force. And everything else you can see is nice and visible. So take a moment and find the best line. Let me know what you would do. Can you find a way to win the game on this turn? Can you find a way to put yourself in a winning position, which has the least amount of risk? Take the time to consider these options. Let me know what you come up with down in the comments. I'll show you what I did here. So I am going to go right on ahead and fire the Super Solar Nutrient to get a Lone Fire Blossom from the deck. Lone Fire Blossom is going to tribute itself to get a Giga Plant. Now I'm going to normal summon my second Lone Fire Blossom, tribute itself to get a Copy Plant. Copy Plant is going to copy Giga Plant to become a level 6, so we can sync 7 with the token for Power Tool Dragon. We are going to Power Tool Dragon to hit the guaranteed Supervise. And then we are going to equip Gigaplant with a Supervise. Our opponent is going to drop the MST here. He also could have done that on the Super Solar Nutrient, but no matter what, we are obviously going to Solemn Judgment that so we can continue to play the game. We're going to bring back Copy Plant and make another Power Tool Dragon. Here, we are counting on 66% to round up to 100%. We need to hit that second Supervise. And of course, we do in fact hit it, so we are going to fire the Supervise and bring back Copy Plant, and we are going to make another Power Tool Dragon, and now once again we are counting on 66% to round up to 100%, which of course it always does, and we are going to get the Mark of the Rose, and we will mark Steal the Alias, and now we can attack for game even through the 9,000 points of damage. So as far as I can tell, this line is the only line that we had to win the game on this turn, and it does require 3 Power Tool Dragons. It does involve a little bit of risk, but I think, if you're playing Gigavise, I suspect that you might have a little bit of degenerate gambler tendencies, I know for myself that I think, a little bit of gambling, it's some exciting stuff. And playing Gigavise with some 2 out of 3 rolls and Power Tool Dragon, that is a really nice way to satisfy the gambler's itch without, leaving my family destitute out on the street. So, speaking of destitute, our hand is completely void of combo pieces until we draw that one Hidden Armory off of Upstart. And now we're going to fire that second Hidden Armory, and we do find a DDR. So this is looking better already. All we need to do now is find a way to get Lone Fire into the graveyard. We do go ahead and hit an Armory for Supervise, so now we have all 3 equips, and we are going to set a Decree, which is going to be super, super useful into our opponent's 2 set spells. Here he's going to draw a Miracle Fusion. It's a really fantastic draw for him, no 2 ways about it. He's going to summon out a Gilman and then hit us for a whole ton of damage. So we are really on the clock now. We absolutely must find something to help us live. And what do we find but a Heavy Storm? So we've drawn all of our back row answers. We have all of our equips and just the wrong plant and no SSN to boot. So we are just going to set a monster and pass to try and live. I know that my chances are slim and I'm definitely behind as it is already. Our opponent is going to go ahead and make a Bryanak, and that is going to be all he needs for game, especially when he shows us that he has the Miracle Fusion as well. So it is now time for game 3. Let's see if we can pull this out. Diva Hero is, like I said, it's a favored matchup, but it is a matchup that can take a game off. Fortunately, we open just about perfectly. I'm seeing Lone Fire. I'm seeing Supervise. I am seeing a Raigeki break for defense. There's really not much more you can ask for here. We are going to go ahead and Lone Fire, summon out a Titanial in defense. It is game 2-3, so I do want to play around the Crow, which of course our opponent does have. And Titanial in defense, backed up with Raigeki Break, is just going to be a considerably stronger board than any other option. So our opponent draws Dust Shoot. Good thing we went first. And they are going to set the Dust Shoot as well as the MST, not bothering to develop the Hero Blast just yet. Totally fine. we are going to start our turn and we are going to Gigaplant right away. It is going to be, kind of my priority to get Stardust Dragon out here. If we do get hit with a torrential before it can come down, then I want to have some good, we still have come back with Supervise and then Miracle Fertilizer, but if we can get the Stardust down, I'm going to be feeling a whole lot safer. So when we summon the Nettles, our opponent is going to go ahead and MST our Supervise. I am going to, of course, use Titanial to negate. I'm going to be able to get Titanial back, and before anything becomes a problem, after our opponent passes priority back to us, we are going to chain Raigeki Break to Titanial to clear out that last back row, discarding a Dandelion, and wouldn't you know it, it's Trap Dust Shoot. And since we discarded the Dandelion, we are down to 3 cards. So that is going to be really, really fantastic for us. We are still going to go ahead and make that Stardust Dragon. And then we are going to Supervise for the Gigaplant, and we'll normal summon Gigaplant and bring back Titanial, and then try and swing in for a whole bunch of damage. I do have the Mirror Force, which is going to be backed up by Stardust, so I'm not particularly afraid of Gores in this case. And indeed, I think I'm vindicated here. Our opponent does go ahead and drop Gores. Not sure why they didn't drop Crow on Gigaplant coming back, but even if they had, we still had the Miracle Fertilizer. Perhaps our opponent was thinking that, they wanted to get the Gores to live anyways, and they wanted to get it with as big of a token as possible. I don't really know. Sometimes people do things that just don't make any sense. So here we are going to Gold Sark for Hidden Armory in case our opponent does have sufficient crackback. We want Hidden Armory to pair with our Fertilizer. Our opponent is going to go ahead and try and swing over the Gores. And we hit the Mirror Force, and that is going to be GG. So a couple matches where 3 Power Tool Dragon does come up. I think that maybe there could have been ways to win those matches without the Power Tool Dragon. There could have been other lines. I've definitely considered some of them myself, but let me know what you guys would have done in those situations. I also think that the other big argument for 3 Power Tool Dragon is against Black Wings or against light decks, where you just absolutely must dig for that Mark of the Rose, so that you can play around Kalut or Honest. That definitely comes up a lot. I just thought it was so nice, so, auspicious and serendipitous how there's some discussion about 3 Power Tool Dragon, and then immediately I have 2 games where it comes up. I think also it's a card that I really liked having. I like having 3. I feel safe with 3. That's just the way I like to play the game. So let me know what you guys think. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. That is huge, and it really does do a lot for me. It means a lot, and it really encourages me to keep bringing you guys the shameless Hypebeast Gigavise content that I know you guys love so much. Smash that friggin' like button, and I will see you guys tomorrow with more shameless Hypebeast Gigavise content. This has been Dionysus, Young Puds for Gigavise Yu-Gi-Oh! See you guys tomorrow.